you know.
All right, everyone, welcome to the Parks Advisory Committee meeting for September 18th, 2024. Can we please get roll call going?
Absolutely. Carol Allen.
Here.
Brenda, oh, sorry, this is an old list, sorry, excuse me. Zach Andrews.
Here.
Robbie Cantrell.
Here.
Jim Hill.
Here.
Tiffany Long.
Here.
Shelley Reynolds.
Here.
Victoria Rizzo.
Here.
Woodrow Terrell.
Here.
Shirley Winters.
Here.
And I, Jonah Jacobson, am here representing staff.
You're missing yourself there.
Yeah.
She was first.
Everybody's here.
Everybody's here, awesome. Well, let's move on to review and approve the July 17th, 2024 minutes. Just have it attached in the packet.
I have
If you wanna
extras.
Let us know.
If anybody doesn't have one, there's one right there.
Move we approve the July minutes.
And I'll second that.
Did anybody have any comments or concerns or corrections?
Just notice that there's more than a few unidentifieds. It's
did.
real important. Everybody say your name when you're talking. This is Shelley.
And to that end, can I just get a confirmation from our remote viewers that you can hear us? Thumbs up if you can hear us. Okay, thank you.
Great. All right, there was a motion from Woodrow and a second by Carol.
I think the motion was from Jim.
No, from Jim, excuse me. Here we go. All those in favor say aye.
Hi.
All right, all those opposed? Perfect. Meeting minutes are approved for the last meeting. Moving on to communications from staff.
All right, well, welcome everybody. It's good to see you all again. It's been a couple of months since our last meeting. And things have been busy in parks, and it's been a very full summer. And so I've got a few things to recap over the last couple of months, but I guess, first of all, on Monday, July 29th, there was a very exciting air show over at College Nature Park. Did anybody get to see that? Did anybody go out and see that? Metro was, you may have seen it on the news, but Metro was placing, I believe, around 150 or 170 logs in Beaver Creek in sort of a crisscrossed pattern to create pools for habitat for salmon and steelhead in Beaver Creek. And so they were using a Chinook helicopter contracted by Evergreen Helicopters, pretty much all day long, just flying back and forth and dropping these big logs in the creek. And it was there, you know, so lots of people were viewing the air show from College Nature Park. It was a fun day out there. So. In August, the city hired a new facilities maintenance technician, which is a huge relief to me. He is fantastic. He's hitting the ground running and doing an excellent job. And I'm very, very grateful to have him on the team. His name is Jonathan Villalobos. He lives here in Troutdale. And so I'm just working on getting him trained up and up to speed. And he's definitely proving to be a huge help to me and a great asset to the team. So far in September, Parks has continued working in conjunction with community development to plan the next phases of wildfire preparedness actions being funded by the 3-year $60,000 grant that we received from Oregon State Fire Marshal's Office. In 2025, we are looking at holding another round of neighborhood wood debris disposal events to promote creating defensible space around people's homes. And we are also working on a plan to install evacuation route signage along Southeast Evans Avenue and possibly also along Southeast Llewellyn Avenue in the Sandy Palisades neighborhood to help people find their way out to Stark Street in the event of a major wildfire as quickly as possible. So more to come on that as things develop with our plans with our partners at Community Development. And as we were discussing before the meeting, the fence line for the small dog area within the Columbia Dog Park was completed this week. We still have more work to do to prep the ground and remove some stumps and logs and rocks. And then we need to spread wood chips before it's ready to be opened. But the idea behind this is it'll be an optional separate area for dogs that are 25 pounds and under, in case somebody wants to separate their dog from larger dogs. So my goal is to have this ready by Halloween, the 1-year anniversary of the opening of the dog park. AMR lifeguards have concluded their summer posting at the beach at Glen Otto Park as of Tuesday, September 3rd. We are extremely grateful to them for their work at the beach and for another summer without any drowning incidents. So thank you very much, AMR. Also down at Glen Otto, we have concluded daytime patrols by Oregon Patrol Services, the contract security company that we began utilizing in parks this summer. And they were successful this summer in their first sort of trial run in assisting parks with things like parking issues at Glen Otto, tamping down alcohol use and dogs on the beach, as well as trespassing and excluding a few rowdy individuals from the park over the summer. So I'm also very grateful to Oregon Patrol Services for the fine work at Glen Otto this summer. And the beginning of fall arrives next week already, September 22nd, believe it or not. So pretty soon the parks crew will be very busy with leaf cleanup, clearing stormwater swales, winterizing irrigation systems in parks, and preparing for the onset of colder weather. And I have an update for all of you on the Beaver Creek Bridge project. There was some materials that I brought out, so you'll see in front of you, this sheet is a project schedule from Parametrics. So this was shared with me by Public Works Engineer Scott Waddell earlier this week. And he says that basically what this graphic is Parametric has laid out 2 possible scheduling tracks for the construction of the bridge, you can see here. So one is kind of accelerated with completion in October of 2025, and one is a little bit more drawn out with completion 1 year later in October 2026. And so where the process is currently, we are still finishing up the RFP process. We have received a proposal from Parametrics, and they have provided us with these scheduling tracks. We should be receiving their updated cost estimate, design fees, and permitting fees this week. And then there will be some final negotiations on scope and cost, etc., before we foresee executing the contract in early October. Certainly, if anybody has any questions about the Beaver Creek Bridge, I can do my best to answer them tonight, but I could also refer you to Scott Waddell with any specific questions via email. And then another update on the new park at the Sandy Riverfront / Confluence / URA property. The city's website has all of the RFP bid information and notice of award and all of that. So I don't know if any of you have looked at the information on the Confluence site on the city's website, but there's a lot of information there for anybody who would like to peruse it. Colf Construction was the low bidder in the bidding process. The project is 51% grant funded through Metro and Oregon State Parks. We have received agreement from Union Pacific Railroad, so that was a major hurdle that has been crossed, so that's really good. We do have a pre-construction meeting that will be happening in the next couple of weeks, and then there will be some remaining permitting that we still need to go through. At this time, we are still looking at breaking ground in the fall, and we could see mobilization on the site as soon as 4 to 8 weeks from now. And we are, at this point, anticipating completion of the project as early as next summer, possibly. So those are a few updates for you from Parks and Facilities.
Quite a few.
Yeah.
Any comments or questions from the committee? Keep going.
This is Tiffany Long. If you see stormwater drains, like while I'm walking around town that are severely covered with debris and clogged and they're not necessarily close to anybody's home, is there somewhere we can report that? Who would you report that to?
You know, I would certainly, you can report it to me. This is something that we are trying to get a little better dialed in as we head into the fall weather. There was a pretty significant rain event that took place last week, and there was actually a swale that did overflow. And so the city is kind of dealing with response to that. But so it's been a little bit ambiguous in the past exactly you know, where maintenance of some of these swales lies. It has been placed on parks historically. However, it is technically wastewater's purview. So you can contact me, and I can definitely get the ball rolling on some vegetation management in most of the swales. There are some swales around town that are managed by homeowners associations as well. So not every swale in the city is managed by wastewater or public works. So, but please feel free to reach out to me and let me know if you see any troubled areas that you're concerned about.
Okay.
As far as other like concerned citizenry that comes up with, I mean, is that a blanket thing that anybody and everybody can just email you directly, or is that something that we wanna try and like address when it comes to like a code violation sort of?
About swales, yeah, so it depends, no, please don't send me every complaint for everything, no. There are some that I can help with, but certainly things like, you know, that issues on private property, that would be code compliance, so.
This is Robbie. Jonah, on the parametrics RFP for the Beaver Creek Bridge, I guess I'm confused. I thought it was dead in the water, no pun intended. And now we're talking about proceeding with an RFP and building the bridge.
I don't believe this project was dead in the water, no. I mean, we were proceeding, this project was proceeding. I think maybe are you perhaps thinking of the skate park? The skate park was dead in the water. No?
Beaver Creek?
No?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, Beaver Creek Bridge, I thought that there was no chance that we were gonna be able to manage the funds for the permitting for the
I can get back to Scott on it, but I mean, when I checked in with him, it sounds like, this is the latest on it that I have, so I mean, it looks to me like he's
we didn't even, Victoria can, this is Robbie, if it's okay, it was in the budget?
Oh, yes. Yeah, can anybody, I mean, yeah,
I didn't bring the budget.
yeah, that's, perhaps Mr. Stafford can help us answer the question as well, but, no, I mean, I believe that, the Beaver Creek Bridge was still proceeding, this year.
Maybe other committee members, this is Robbie, maybe other committee members can concur. I thought that we were speaking about it with such pessimism that the past committee chair was talking about sneaking logs down there in the middle of the night to get around.
Right. I know, yeah, I recall that as well, and so I'm sorry if I need to go back and kind of clear up some of that.
Victoria, I thought we were trying to decide on how to make it, but materials.
Right, and so I think that, you know, this, I'm sorry, this is the latest that I have from the engineering department that's actually working on it, so.
This is Robbie, it's good to see. It's good to see. I didn't know that these things were happening, but I guess we were speaking about it, like, and I looked back in the notes to see if we spoke about it last meeting and we didn't, so good news, unexpected news, but I'm very curious to hear more about how this is actually happening.
Well, yeah, I can go over and pour over past meetings minutes from the last few months and figure out exactly where the miscommunication or misunderstanding might lie, and I'm sorry if that is due to something that I misconveyed. So, but in any case, this comes straight from the horse's mouth, as it were.
Yeah, this is Sherry. I do believe that much was said about how we could not afford it, that merely getting a permit or whatever to check to make sure it was okay was going to be even out of the budget, and it wasn't going to go forward.
Yeah, I don't know what to tell you. I can go back over and read everything, and I may have some answers for you then, but I don't have the answer to that at this moment. So we can, you know, this is where it's at. So.
Cool. Can you confirm, this is Robbie, can you confirm the timeline for that again? When did you say, it was, can you just reiterate the?
These are very, I mean, this is presented by an outside contractor.
No, I'm sorry,
but-
in your communication, from staff, you have like specific timelines related to them,
Oh, yes,
like the
yeah.
initial proposal, could you just reiterate those?
Yeah, we can say, let's see, we should be receiving their updated cost estimate, design fees, permitting fees this week. Some final negotiations on scope, cost, etc. before executing the contract in early October. So that sounds pretty, and I mean, this is copy and pasted directly from Scott's email. So, I can check in with him afterwards and just see where the confusion lies on that. But I mean, that's what I got on it. So.
Cool, thank you.
All right.
Yeah, this is Zach. Yeah, I don't think you missed a beat. I'm pretty sure where we left off was it was not, yeah, like you mentioned with the permitting especially, like it being the first initial stage, being money that we couldn't get back if we were not able to proceed with the plans, given the viability study done on it. So just to confirm, you're saying that at this point, we have selected a contractor to proceed potentially with these plans following the estimated, let's see, construction in 2025 is feasible, so feasibility study for moving forward on this one.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure if Parametric is a consultant and designer. I don't know if they are actually a builder.
Okay.
So I'm not going to comment on that. I would honestly, I'm not an engineer, so any specific engineering questions or questions about what exactly Parametrics is doing with the projects and what they are not doing, I would refer to Scott Waddell, the engineer in charge of the project. So.
Yeah, if you could send the committee an update from Scott, that would be fantastic, just to get all the facts and kind of see where we are in the actual process that we all thought was not proceeding, and then, Carol?
I agree with you, and then maybe to see if Scott could come next month
That would
to
be-
address
yeah,
this
good call.
to the committee, that would be great.
That was
Yeah.
my suggestion.
Yeah, for sure.
Were there any other questions on any other stuff from the staff report?
This is Zach. I will just want to make a note too. I did take a look at some of the recreation stuff, and just on that wildfire note, if you guys haven't taken a look, there's some pretty good free resources. We're doing like a disaster preparedness class that's free, which you might find handy. I think it's coming up over the next couple of months or so, and I'm sure after we're doing this kind of study, that information is going to be helpful. And again, it is free. So. Anybody else? Yes,
Woodrow, Jonah, do you have any open positions?
At the moment, no. No, we filled the facilities maintenance tech. I don't have any open positions. There are open positions in the city. They are, I believe,
just right.
Recruiting for a payroll specialist, but no, not in my division at the moment.
And any outstanding training for your staff?
I mean, certainly we would, yeah, I mean, there is some trainings that, I would schedule in the next year. I wouldn't say they're outstanding. We have one, parks worker, who joined our crew last year, who, will probably be doing his pesticide applicator license training. I myself have been doing a lot of, incident command system training. I've done, over, 100,
200, 700?
I'm up to 400 now.
Good
So,
job.
yeah, and I actually just had a meeting this morning, it's with some outside consultants who are helping the city draft a new emergency operations plan.
Awesome. Thank you.
This is Robbie. Jonah, with regards to the contractor for the park down at the river, do we know if we have, is that a reoccurring contract? Are they set up for next year, or is it just a one-year thing?
I don't know if it's I mean, I think it's the length of the project. I don't know if it's limited to 1 year. I think it's however long it takes them to complete the project. They said that, I mean, they're saying they anticipate completion as early as next summer. That does not necessarily mean that it
Sorry.
be finished next summer.
Sorry, no, I think I misconveyed. Down at Glen Auto Park, the security contractors.
Oh, sorry, I thought you meant
Yeah,
at the
no, you're
Sandy
totally
River
fine, you're
front.
totally fine.
Okay.
The security contractors that were down at Glen Auto Park this summer, do we know if that was a one-year contract or if that's a recurring contract?
It was, I mean, it's essentially, any party can terminate the contract at any time. There is not an ongoing contract with them. They invoice us monthly for services, so.
You said they concluded their, this is Robbie, you said they concluded their summer patrol on September 3rd.
Daytime patrols. We still have them doing a couple of night check-ins at a few sites.
Okay.
Random night sweeps at a few sites, but no, we concluded their daytime weekend patrols of Glen Auto Park. So we had them working in the daytime at Glen Auto during the busy summer weekends, so.
This is Tiffany. So if that was successful this year and you guys thought it was helpful, do you plan on doing that again next year?
I do. I mean, I think that, you know, I think that I appreciated OPS's help with a lot of things. There was also, earlier this month, there was a city council meeting where the language around the dog ordinance was slightly adjusted to include some fine language, which was somehow omitted from the previous ordinance. It was planned, and then somehow it just didn't make it in. So there was just a small amendment in the council to add some fine language for dogs in parks. And so part of the difficulty that OPS had at Glen Auto this summer was that that language was not in the existing ordinance. And so they could tell people that dogs were not permitted at the park, but there was no, they couldn't actually ticket anybody for it. They could just tell people to get their dogs out of the park. So, so next summer, I believe they will actually be able to issue citations on that. And so, so that will be helpful. I don't see why we wouldn't continue that. However, that, you know, that was not something that I put into the parks budget. That was added by the budget committee this year. So, so I don't see why not. You know, as long as things are copacetic between OPS and MCSO, and you know, that's the other factor in it is we have an actual law enforcement agency, and we need to make sure that OPS dovetails with them. So and so far they have.
This is Shelley. So if it wasn't something that you put into the parks budget for this year, is that something that probably you should put into the budget annually, or is that somebody else's responsibility?
No, I would. I just, it was a request made by Councilor White during the budget approval process. So
Great.
And it seemed to work pretty well. And it was a response to you know, the question of who does parks enforcement. So
Right. Great.
So we do have an avenue for that in OPS. It looks like. So.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, I've been going through the budget. And we do have Beaver Creek North Bridge replacement, $350,000. Although it does say if grant funded, so maybe we got the grant.
Yeah, I don't have any information on the grant but I know that has said that in previous years' budgets as well. That's kind of a carryover from previous allocations for the Beaver Creek Bridge. So that says the same thing that it did in the 23-24 budget. So. But was that reduced? Was that number reduced in the budget approval process? That was kept at the same level, wasn't it? That's what I thought. Yeah. So. So I'm really, I apologize for the gap in information on that. I can get back to everybody on what exactly is going on with the difference between what Scott is telling me today and what we all have heard earlier this year. So.
All right. Well, that is it. Then we'll go ahead and move on to public comments, starting with the room. If anybody would like to speak, please approach the table and state your name and city of residence for the record.
Good evening, Chair Andrews, Parks Committee, Tanny staff, and some Troutdale resident. I also sit on the Troutdale Budget Committee. And two things before I start. One, that is correct. There was $350,000 allocated in the budget and appropriations for the bridge if there was grant funding to offset that expense. And the second thing I would like to do is thank all of you for your service to the city. I really appreciate it. But I got a call from someone because of the Imagination Station surface. And I just wanted to bring to your attention, you know, in the minutes that we approved tonight on page 3, it talks about that the budget allocation was reduced to $50,000 and that was done by the budget committee. And I guess I also want to say, you know, it also says in here, it would be more than that if someone fell. Yes, it would. But we can't make every decision in the city based on that. There's just not the ability to do so. I wish there was, but there isn't. If we could prevent every accident from happening, I think we certainly would all like to do that. We just try to do the best we can with what we have. Now, and the reason I bring that up is because I got a little bit of heat for being involved in cutting that item. And I've only got a few copies of these, and for that I apologize, but I'll pass them around and you guys can take a look at them. But this is the page from this year's budget for parks. And basically what it shows in there, if we look under section code 8350, it shows that the Imagination Station surface rehab was in here at $100,000. And then if you turn that page over, you'll see some items on the other page. And that is a list of budget cuts that were done by staff for the budget committee. Okay, and the reason for those cuts, just so you're aware of it, we had a $6.1 million deficit budget presented to the committee. And you might not be too familiar with this, but if that money was spent, we would have had $2.5 million left to operate the city on. Now think about that for a second. You had 6.1 million, right? You have 2.5 left, and because of our payroll and things, we cannot go below 2 million. So the committee was like, we don't want to spend everything we have in 1 year, so we'd like some cuts made to the budget, and those were the cuts that were proposed by staff to the budget committee. The budget committee didn't take a single action in itself to cut the parks budget or the budget for that particular item.
For that particular item? Or for the entire parks budget? But for that particular item? You're saying that the budget committee didn't?
The budget committee did not cut that item.
That item, but not the parks budget as a whole?
The items that were cut from the parks budget are on that second page, and those were presented to the committee by Eric Mueller and Ray Young.
Right. Yes, sir. And I think part of the confusion might be this abbreviated format in the new minutes that the transcriber is providing our minutes in. I believe if you listen to the recording, I did say that that cut was made by Mr. Ray Young, not by the committee. So.
Well, there was something that said that it was done by the committee, and so that's kind of what helped to bring me here.
Okay.
Also, just so you're aware of it, okay, I think parks are very important, but I was also told that we're not allocating enough for parks. And I can't tell you whether or not we are or not, but this is simply what the parks budget for operations, I'm gonna keep one, thanks, and for capital have been for the last 6 years, okay? And this may or may not be a big enough increase, but in operations, we've gone up 34%, $124,000 over the last 5 years. And even after we made the cut to the capital budget, the full budget for parks was still $1.7 million, and that's a 166% increase to what we spent 5 years ago. And so I know there's never enough to do the things that we want to do. And I don't have a good answer for that tonight. But I just wanted to say, you know, we did not intentionally cut that item or do anything because we knew the importance of it.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Okay, this is Sherry Winters. Okay, so I'm just trying to understand, on page 3 then of what our minutes was, it said the budget allocation was reduced to $50,000 for that resurfacing. But it is actually not that, it's actually 100,000?
Yes.
No, it's 50 in my budget. It was, I believe.
Do you know where the reduction came from?
I believe it was reduced by city management before it went to the budget committee. And I believe that's what I said in the recording last session.
Okay, I'm sorry, this is Sherry again.
For this particular
Is this
allocation.
the actual budget?
Yes.
Okay, so this budget actually says Imagination Station surface rehab, $100,000.
Yes.
Okay, so, yeah. I do believe it's been not just last time's minute, but I thought we had talked before about that, you know, it wasn't very great, that you, we were hoping, you know, there would be more, but, okay, so it's twice as much as what we thought. We thought 50,000, it's 100,000 for us, and then we can choose to not do the sales, and we can use that money.
Well, yeah, and I guess the budget committee and the council's position would be you asked for 100 and you got 100.
Yeah.
But this is Carol, then why was Jonah told he has 50,000?
That's a good question on that.
I don't know. I'm just going off of what was approved in the public meeting.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
In any case, thank you for clarifying that.
Sure.
I understand that there are many considerations that go into approving the city's budget. And I believe I said as much during the budget approval process that I was fully aware of you know, the myriad of things that the city needs to spend money on and not just parks.
Right.
I totally understand that. Now, if there's a question about the operational or staffing needs in parks and what it takes to run that show, especially given that we are going to be adding an A1 maintenance class site that's going to be the crown jewel of Troutdale tourism in this confluence site, I am more than happy to meet with you or to any members of the budget committee, give them a tour of the parks facility, introduce them to my staff, and talk to you about what it takes to run the division and what I see as some major bottlenecks coming our way in the future. So my door is always open to you, Tanny, and to everybody on the budget committee, and I would very much be grateful for the opportunity to speak with you one-on-one and introduce you to my staff and show you what we do.
No, and I would appreciate that. It's gonna be a really tough year budget-wise because of the police contract going up over 40%, fire doing the same thing.
If you want to come and talk to me about
Yeah.
parks operations and what we need in order to provide quality maintenance to our sites for the public here in Troutdale, my door is always open to you. So please.
Appreciate that.
Okay.
Shelley?
This is just, first of all, Kenny, thank you for your
You're
service.
welcome.
And being here tonight, and our apologies if you feel on the defensive, you shouldn't. It wasn't personal, honest.
No,
For budget, I know the city dictates what comes down to be cut. They present a budget, correct me if I'm wrong, please. They present a budget and they say, we have this much money, you need to make this many cuts. Is it possible for, prior to the budget meeting, for parks to review what's in the budget and set our priorities so that what actually is first considered for cuts is so that we're not caught by surprise, so that we can look at it and say, oh yeah, we agree, this should be cut. Just as a as an option for prior to a budget committee, having parks kind of review what's in it for parks and have the committee members here take a look at it and set our priorities and 1, 2, 3, so that when it's presented to the budget committee knows, okay, the parks committee is gonna be fine with us reducing this one and this one.
You can do that, you have the ability. Staff's responsible for preparing a budget. And frankly, I think they do the best they can. They look at how much we have, what we're doing, and at the end of the day, you know, they propose something. Like this last year, it was 6 million in the red, which is something you just can't do.
Right.
Right, and so a lot of tough decisions get made. But I was also gonna say, you know, something that a number of groups do is they come to the meetings, the budget committee meetings are public. Sometimes they're a little feisty, but they're interesting, to say the least. So it might be better than watching TV that night, I don't know. But a lot of times they come and they advocate for things in the budget or for a budget for a particular division or something, and they'll say, hey, please, find a way to fund this. And that does go a long way with the committee.
Okay. This is Shelley again. I guess what I would like to see is us as a group, as a committee, being on the same page as the budget committee. So one, you don't feel like you have to defend yourself to us because you don't, right? It's your job to set the budget. It's our job to make it work. But at the same time, if we're working together and in conjunction with that budget, it might make everything easier all around and your budget meetings might last a little less time.
Can I just say one thing? While I'm happy to review capital outlay projects, priorities of this committee, the Parks and Facilities operating budget is my responsibility to manage
Right.
and to say what we need to operate. That is not something that we will be poring over on a line by line basis in this committee.
No,
So,
I'm speaking
just to
of
say flat out.
capital stuff only. I'm only talking about the projects that would be that we as a committee would be suggesting. The dog park or the skate park or resurfacing Imagination Station, you know, those capital outlays that we put in our parks master plan. Certainly, Jenna, we would never want to step on your toes for staffing. That is all you.
I mean, well, staffing is separate from operations, and staffing is a whole separate conversation. I personally, what keeps me up at night is how we are going to operate this new park with the staffing levels that we already have. People are stretched thin, morale is low. And you know, if we're talking about the police services contract, there is a heavy burden placed upon the facilities division in caring for this building. And so personally, what I would like to see is in the services contract, the county providing a little bit more support in the upkeep and maintenance of this building. Because when we initially, I was not here for all of this, but and for anybody who was, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong about any of this, because this is just what I've heard secondhand from other people who were here when this took place. But this building was designed to have about 30 to 40 people operating out of it. Currently, the entire East County Patrol Division is operating out of this building with about 75 people working out of it. It's placing a lot of wear and tear on this building.
Jonah, this is Woodrow. When I asked you if you had any staffing opening, then this would be a good time to say that.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, so I think that's kind of I'm sorry, Woodrow. I thought the question was, do I have any open positions currently?
Open position is what I asked, but
yeah,
I'm asking if you needed additional people.
Oh, absolutely, we do.
So
And I'm extremely concerned about how we are going to maintain this brand new park next year. There's only so many hours in the day, and parks workers struggle to keep up during peak season with what we already have. And if you read this document that the city paid a lot of money to MIG to produce, if you read this document, it says that what people in this community want is increased maintenance on our existing sites. That is going to be very difficult to achieve with more acreage and the same number of people. And that is something that I will be bringing to the budget committee next spring, absolutely. So, and I hope that people understand that, and that's why I invite you and your colleagues on the committee to come and spend a day with us and see what we do.
I don't disagree with you, and I'm certainly not here to debate you. But I would have to say parks is right up there, but also too are things like police and fire.
Oh, absolutely. There's no debate on that. There is no debate on that.
And when your income is down and your costs are up, it makes tough decisions for everyone. And this building was designed for less people, but frankly, the way the cost structure is on this building is not beneficial to the city at all.
I agree. I absolutely agree with that.
And frankly, I testified about that in 2013, and I was told to go sit down. So I'm sorry.
Thank you for not saying that.
And just to echo what you said, sir, we do the best that we can with what we have as well. And I want to make sure that we're bridging the divide between the expectations of the community for maintaining parks and what we can do with the number of people that we have in a 10-hour day. There is a disconnect there.
Oh, there certainly is, and I think it's going to become kind of almost tougher for us before it gets better.
Okay.
Because we're in a position that we haven't been in 10 years, and everybody wants more money.
Well, I look forward to working with you in the coming year
I do too.
to meet the expectations of the community for parks. And I thank you for your work in other regards in terms of law enforcement and fire and the rest of the city and things that are not in my wheelhouse, so.
This is Sherry. So I think I need to have this clarified in my head so I understand. So staff comes up with the budget and gives you it, and then the budget committee says, listen, there's not this much funding. Staff, you figure out where to cut it. Staff came back with where the cuts should be to make it work, and then you approve that budget.
Yes.
Okay. So you as a budget committee didn't go through and parcel out and say, nah, we're not gonna work on that one, or,
No, but frankly, that would have been the next step.
okay, if staff hadn't come back.
Yeah, had some
Okay.
cuts not come back from
Okay.
staff, that typically would be the next step.
Okay, okay, great. Thank
This
you.
is Zach, Kenny, thank you very much for coming.
You're
and
welcome.
Sharing and just confirming some information, and I think we all have some good facts set straight, regardless of any, potential miscommunication. I think we're all on the same page now, so.
Thank you.
Greatly appreciate it and work with you.
Thanks for allowing me the time, and again, thank you for
Yeah,
your
yeah,
service.
thank you.
Thank
And I will continue to, Shelley, I like what you're saying. It's essentially kind of what I was getting at our meeting earlier in the year when I was saying that we would like to do more of a conversation when it comes to things like that. So to her point, Jonah, obviously operationally, staff-wise, that's totally your wheelhouse, area of expertise. You're gonna have a lot more in your scope too, on like things that we're not even aware of improvements to be made, right? So to your point, I think capital projects wise, priority wise, based off of what the Parks Master Plan says and dictates when it comes to this committee body essentially being kind of a decision-making force for what is being prioritized in that regard. I made sure that was in there, at the time. And I think that will serve us to basically continue to work towards that. So I think action step wise, if we were to the meeting before, I guess you kind of start those budget talks, maybe have it scheduled on the agenda for us to kind of come together and discuss, prioritize and stuff a little bit more in a formal setting when it comes to coming to the table kind of with what we think we should be putting forth in a conversation with staff on including for the year, getting our vehicle.
sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I 100% agree with that. I would say that we could even have a rolling discussion of budget items between now and February. So my budget worksheets I turn my budget worksheets into city management in the middle of February. They then, 1 month later, they then work on them and tweak them, and we discuss them in a few rounds of meetings, and then city management takes them to the budget committee meetings in March. So between now and February, we have, 3, maybe 4 meetings, depending on holiday cancellation and all that. So I would be more than happy to discuss budget items in every meeting between now and February.
So this is Carol. This is a lot of information, new information, kind of completes the holes. How can we, as a committee, support you?
Well,
And I bring that up because I go to the city council meetings, I hear them, right? And so I want, as a citizen, have some ideas and some complaints. And, I know coming here, I could do it as a committee member, but there are times that I bring things up to the city council, or I will call Ray, or I will call a city councilor and talk to them. So how can we as a body help support you and then have us go and do work alongside you, or go and talk to the committees and talk to the city and say, hey, this is what we're here for, you know what I mean?
right, I think that is all that anybody can do, and I thank you all for your support, and I think that all of you, have offered that support already in the past year, and so I think that, really, I think it's just, and again, I just want to reiterate, I understand that there is a hierarchy of needs happening here, that essential law enforcement and emergency services are higher on that hierarchy than having a clean and well-maintained park. I totally understand that. And I guess, this being my first public sector job, I'm not used to saying, I'm sorry, I can't deliver the results that you want. Like I want to be able to get out there and be like, yeah, let's do it right now, let's do it, And so sometimes what's frustrating for me is realizing that isn't always possible. And so, I think that what your understanding around that is certainly appreciated. The community's understanding around that is certainly appreciated. And all that any of you can do in that regard is do exactly what you have done, which is to bring the concerns and priorities of this committee to city council, to the budget committee, make sure that those are vocalized. And then at that point, the people charged with the responsibility to make decisions at that level are going to make whatever decision that they make. And I accept that. I am not here to argue any of those points with you, or anybody on the budget committee or city council. And I fully understand that there's a lot more than just parks that goes into the decision-making process. So I thank you all for your support, and I don't see any more that you could do.
This is Sherry, maybe I should wait till later unless I don't know, but I just was thinking, maybe as an idea, maybe there's something we can do in a way to help that gets a citizen buy-in that is more of like, solves cleanup, or, something where we can help to help a park be, spruced up in a way or something, like a little bit of buy-in. I don't know how it would look, but I'm just like thinking when you brought up goats last time, how it is. And then the other thing I was thinking as a possible, and again, maybe this is out of my wheelhouse of really knowing, but maybe the way to show a necessity in more people, maybe if an audit of every park and the hours spent doing the individual things, it would show, like where, time is being spent on different parks. I don't know. Okay, that's just a lob, sorry.
Yeah, totally. I do our best to have tasks tracked by, in the people on my staff's time sheets, there isn't a place to track where they spend hours at every park the way that it is set up currently. I suppose that we could do that. Currently, the only thing that I separate out from everything else is the amount of hours that are spent in this building, because I am trying to track how much labor input goes into taking care of this building. So
this is Zach. We can touch a little bit more on the citizen volunteer effective outreach and stuff on the next point. Before we move on to more public comments online, Shelley, did you have?
Nope.
Okay, awesome. Perfect, so on that note, real quick, any other public comments online? Anybody online want to make a public comment?
This is Shirley. Hi, my name is Shirley Prickett, and I live in Troutdale. I want to say the parks in my neighborhood are well maintained, and I like the fact that the Parks Committee or the Parks Department is doing what they need to do. They're doing an awesome job in my neighborhood, so I have no complaints. The only thing I'm worried about is Imagination Station. It gets a lot of foot traffic. And whatever, they need to rethink the surface of the park because it's not holding up to as much traffic as that's going on at that park. This summer when I was there, there must have been at least 50 kids in any given moment running through that park. And so maybe rethinking what surface they use the next time might hold up a little better than what they're using right now. Because they have mats covering the holes, which is really great because for handicapped people, that would be hard to maneuver if there's lots of holes in the flooring. So the surface itself didn't hold up as well as I think it should. So maybe a different surface next time would be more applicable for that park. Because it used to be the main park where everybody would want to go and still is. So just to make the surface more durable, maybe would be the next best thing. That's all I have to say, but thank you, Parks Committee. You're doing a wonderful job. Parks Department, great job. No complaints. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the feedback. I really appreciate it.
Anybody else online like to make a comment? Paul?
Yes, Zach, Paul Wilcox, Troutdale. Just a quick comment and question. Audio-wise, having a really hard time hearing Zach in particular. Jonah is coming through loud and clear, and I'm hearing the other members fairly well. My question was to Jonah. You mentioned earlier that AMR had finished out their lifeguard season at Glenado. I was curious if you have any rescue statistics from the summer.
That's a good question. I know that nobody died. I don't know how many rescues they did, if any, but I can request that information, Paul. I would like to know that as well. So.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Anybody else online?
Hey,
Yes, go for it.
Frank Stevens, Troutdale resident. Hey, I want to do a shout out. Jonah, your crew that's doing the maintenance on the new Chalk Trail with keeping the place tidy and neat. Thumbs up. Yeah, I mean, we're getting more and more people that are visiting, and my counts that I'm doing this summer have gone up substantially, and I think you guys are a key part of that. So put that down on your list of accolades, and potentially maybe we can talk about that in the budget as well, and the fact that when we finish up that Sandy River Trail and how that's all going to connect. Yeah, I think that's a great approach to looking at the budget because we're going to need the extra manning for sure. Thanks.
Thank you so much. That's an excellent point. And yeah, I mean, in the last year, we have added, I mean, I'm not gonna say acreage because it's not necessarily acreage, but the amount of maintenance input that goes to both the Chalk Trail and the dog park is adding things to the list, certainly. But I really appreciate you saying that. And yeah, we do our best to get out there and take care of garbage and dog poop as often as we can, so.
Thank you, Frank. Alrighty. Moving on, we are on recap of TPAC tabling at August 1st Friday. Roundtable discussion of ways to conduct effective public outreach and recruit citizen volunteer groups. So this is Zach again. I do want to thank you, Tiffany, for kind of taking point on that endeavor and getting us table set up there and organized with time spots for people to volunteer and jump in and help out. So thank you for doing that.
This is Tiffany. I think it was fun to be down there and experience that. It was the first time for me. And I thought it would be a little bit different than it was. I just didn't feel like we got to interact as much as I wanted to. There was everybody that I told about the dog park didn't know it existed, so it was fun to have the grand opening pictures. I had them playing on an iPad down there for people to see. And I brought it with me so you could see how big it was. I made a suggestion box that I put on the table. It's very large, and not one single suggestion was made. So that was just disappointing. But it was fun to talk to people and hand out treats and give dog treats out and tell people about what we've got going on in Troutdale. I think there's some really special things that some of the smaller neighborhood parks have that nobody really realizes exist. So in the future, I do think it would be good for us to have a presence down there, maybe our own table. Jim and I were talking, we wondered, they have a pop-up and it says the city of Troutdale on it. Does Parks have a pop-up that says Parks and Facilities on it? So if we had our own spot and it actually said Parks, because people like the parks. They're interested in what the parks are doing. And so if we're like, how do we bring more people in to tell them what's happening or get suggestions? So we were curious about that. So now we have that answer. If there's not one, that would be cool if there was one of those.
Yeah, can I interrupt?
Yeah, go for it.
So this is Jim. It's great that there's a city canopy there, but we think that it would be more attractive if it was parks. Right? A little more specific, and then, I don't know, maybe $100. This is about kind of a banner thing that would bring people in. I enjoyed the time there, but it was frustrating because the crowds just walk right by, and it's hard to caption. Sorry to interrupt, Tiffany, thank you.
Yeah, there's not a lot to bring them in to talk to us about what's going on. I did notice at the September 1st Friday, was it the safety committee was down there?
It was.
And did you guys you were handing out a paper about taking a survey. And I saw a couple of young ladies walking around with vests on, and it looks like they had a clipboard. Were they with you guys handing out that same thing? I didn't know what they were handing out. Like, I don't know if we walked around and asked people for suggestions, or.
That would have been Multnomah County Department of Transportation. They were on site as well. And they had a safety and transportation survey they were asking people to complete.
Okay, because I mean, that's to see somebody walking around and asking people to do things that could be useful. I think it might be nice to go to two of them throughout the summer. Pick two that we want to do, maybe the first one and a middle first Friday. I don't know.
I
Just a
definitely
couple.
recommend the first one. The first one always has the highest turnout. People are excited to get out. Usually the weather is a little cooler. Sometimes the weather can be a limiting factor and people don't come out because it's hot. So.
This is Carol. I definitely agree. I was gonna say, don't do it in July or September or August. It's just too hot. People aren't out there as much.
Well, what's the big one?
And I would do definitely the first
June.
one, and then I would do June. Yeah, most definitely.
Is it June the first one?
Do we start it in June?
That's what I'm thinking. I think they start it in July. I want to say July's the first one. But then that doesn't make sense because it's still posted July 1st.
I
Or
thought we
July
started
4th.
earlier.
It's
but
June.
so-
I
is it
think it
June?
starts in.
So I would definitely go to the first one and then maybe July, but August is getting too hot and it's just too hot September.
Also, this is Shelley, just as a matter of information, it's not as highly trafficked, but that Tuesday night,
The farmer's market?
farmer's market is nice too, and we can just set up on one of the tables and have an iPad showing or whatever, so it's a good way to interact with the community is that Tuesday as well.
Well, I know we were talking about, this is Tiffany again, I know we were talking about, Shirley mentioned how do we get people involved, and there is an event that's happening, if you guys saw in the paper, what's that, the Champion. There's gonna be a Halloween event at the dog park. And the dog park is getting, Jonah has told me, it's one of the parks that gets used the most now. It's getting pretty popular. There's lots of people coming in and out of it more often. And so I don't think Marley has a costume contest planned. It's more of just a costume party. And it sounds like there will be some vendors there. And I think that's gonna be a really good place for us to set up. I have been discussing with Jonah, trying to figure out how to get a Facebook page just for like I don't know if it has to be done through the city. I still have to get in touch with the marketing person that does the Facebook, but to have a page specifically for the dog park, and then to let people that are in the dog park know that page exists, and it's a place where they can go and discuss their concerns or wants or needs. And then also a place where we can recruit volunteers to help with a cleanup day at the dog park, to help with the weeds, or just a day to really have everybody walk around and pick up extra dog poop that's been left behind. But mostly getting some of the weeds handled, because it gets pretty out of control in there.
It did this year, and that is partially, so, because it's a new park, I'm developing a management strategy for the park, kind of on the fly. This is its first year that it's open. This year I didn't use any herbicide in the park, largely because of kind of public opinion and people not wanting herbicide around their dogs. I also cannot use herbicide within 150 feet buffer zone of the water towers that are right there. Next year I do plan on doing some herbicide spraying in the spring and closing the park for a week, because it's just the only way to keep a handle on the weeds. It's not, we don't have the time to be doing manual removal. So I apologize that it's really hairy out there this year. It will look better next year.
Yeah, and on that note, Tiffany, again, if you don't have the staff to handle it, I mean, I think that the people that use the park would be willing to do a couple of cleanup days during the spring when it's at its worst and heaviest growing season. Just kind of like what they do for Earth Day, where people show up and the city provides the tools. And I mean, it's very conveniently located right next to your facility. And so it wouldn't be a huge thing to get in there and get tools and close the dog park to dogs for a day, and having a Facebook page to let people know it's coming, we're gonna have a volunteer cleanup day. And at that Halloween, I would like to have a table with our Parks Advisory Committee representation of somebody taking names of volunteers. Because they're the dog people, and I think the dog people would be willing to help. So just so that we can have a list of people to contact to say, this is when we're gonna do this. The Facebook page would be another way to let people know it's happening. But I think to gather a list of people willing to help at that event would be a great thing to do.
Can I offer a suggestion about that, Tiffany? Yeah. So the dog park itself is almost the venue for recruiting people who want to participate in a volunteer event like that. One of the awesome things about the dog park is it's for dogs. It's not really for dogs. It's for people to get outside, to go socialize with their neighbors, to go meet their neighbors and enjoy being outside with their pets. If you gotta take the dog for a walk, it's a place to go out and meet your neighbors. And so would it be helpful if I can talk to Kevin Mooney, the social media manager for the city, about creating either a Facebook page like you were talking about just for the dog park, or a Facebook group for it, as well as a page on the city website that's specific for it, which I think maybe he's already got he was working on.
There's a spot that you can click on that's about the dog park.
So, but what we could do, I could also have Kevin print out flyers that have a QR code that connects people to the Facebook group.
Yeah, I think that'd be really useful.
We could put those on the gates of the dog park, and just a flyer that says, hey, do you wanna join a once a month social, little, cleanup club, to help take care of this place. And so I think there'd be a pretty good response from the users of the park.
I absolutely do.
So,
Yeah, this is Zach. Great idea. I think that goes a long way, and I think it's underutilized as a venue. I think from outreach in various forms, but something focused on the dog park that engages people. People can post pictures of their pet, tag the park, whatever it is. Just make it a fun thing, and then I think it'd be a good idea, to get our plan together for the volunteer page, or for the volunteer, event, in order to start getting that, but I know like at the recreation, like Troutdale Play Park, stuff like that, that we've had go on, they do have a sign-up sheet where it's like, a little checkbox that basically just says like, hey, are you willing to volunteer at some point to do that kind of thing, so implementing that with a group that's already engaged actively in the group is a good call. On that rec note, I think if we do, start having a regular presence, or at least an initial presence at the first Friday, looking at Molly King partnering with Recreation, because that will help boost whatever program she has going on seasonally, in addition to hopefully drawing some folks in for other, information on what we're offering as a Parks and Rec department. I still think that's kind of an underutilized component to what we do, in terms of kind of partnering with her, and it's leaving a lot of engagement on the table, I think, that we could probably utilize a little bit better.
This is Robbie. If we wanted to just explore that thought line a little bit further, specifically with Molly King, the Public Safety and Equity Committee was talking about going to one of the movie nights, and having a booth at a movie night. If we want to take it another step further, the Troutdale Historical Society has a booth at all of the Edgefield concerts during the summer. We could do one there. So if we wanted to like set up a framework for what it would look like for the committee to go to X event, we could cross-apply it to any of these events that we can compile, because there's so many that happen that we could potentially engage our community with at. So I think if we have a cross-applicable structure, we can do a lot more with it.
This is Sherry. I was just thinking that with the idea of cleaning up the stuff, not that it would happen on the same weekend, but when we have a spring cleanup in Troutdale, like maybe there's some advertisement in the Champion that indicates, like giving back, or, in some way coming out on like a particular day or whatever and helping clean up some parks or whatever it might be. And so anyway.
Woodrow?
Jonah, so we tried something like this in back down in Arizona years and years ago. And we got, the only negative comments we got was from people who were saying, this is not my job, this is why I pay taxes, blah, 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 right? So one thing you might want to do, maybe rephrase this instead of like calling it a cleanup event, Friends of Parks. Right?
Yeah.
And then you bring in everybody who wants to be a friend of the park, right? Which is everybody. And then you have a few, get together, let's talk about parks, And then the conversation will go into, what do they need? Where can we help? And that's when you say, oh, we need cleanup. Okay? And so then you won't get the negative nagging, nilly nitwits posting, blah, 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 blah. Right? It'll be friends of the parks, and everybody wants to be friends of the parks. Just those 2 cents worth.
No, that's a really good point, and I certainly expect that there will always be some of those folks who are asking that question, why do I have to do this?
But you give them a little bit of sugar, and you get them to join the group, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, we gotcha.
And that being said too, I mean, it's just like, I really, I wanna work on this, and get these sort of community resources going, for the benefit of parks, but also for the benefit of the community. It's a fun thing for people to do together. And, and also I fully anticipate that, once we kind of dial in the management strategy at that brand new park, the need for it won't be quite as great. So anyway, I will plan on following up with Kevin about these ideas, and I can report back to the committee next month.
Cool, that'd be great.
Where that's at.
Shelley?
This is Shelley. Something else we might want to think about. I understand it comes with the whole new set of liabilities, but there's got to be high schoolers in need of some extra credit volunteer hours.
Absolutely.
And meeting with the schools and devising programs, say, we need this many volunteers for this many hours this week. Who do you got?
Yeah.
And actually working with the high schoolers, getting them engaged in a work program is always helpful, especially now that, you know, college is becoming out of reach for a lot of students, especially in Reynolds. So these work programs, volunteer hours for extra credit, you know, whatever it takes to donuts. I mean, whatever it takes to bribe them to get out and help, might be a good opportunity for the students as well as the parks.
That's an excellent idea, and Carol, if you know who I should contact at Reynolds about that, then feel free to email me, or connect me with them so that I can talk to them about any kids who might be in need of that sort of thing. I mean, as long as they're willing to work and I don't have to, spend more time supervising them than I would to get the job done myself. So, but I certainly, I'd be interested in pursuing that. And we have worked a lot with the Multnomah Youth Corps out of Reynolds High School. That is like a job program. That's I think separate.
This is Carol. So I would reach out to Mike Anderson, who's the principal at the high school. Bailey is another person who does like government and leadership classes that she's done things with. But I would definitely reach out to Mike Anderson first and see where you would go from there.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else? Nice, good discussion. Moving on to review the current state of the trail system in Troutdale Parks and Greenways. Do we happen to have that ability to pull that up? Or
I looked for it, and the PDF I have of this is like actually less clear than just the paper sheet. I feel bad for folks online. I could work on that. I don't have it ready to go. But I believe that this map is available online. It is. The definition on it is not fantastic on either the print version or the PDF. And for that, I apologize. I can reach out to MIG and see if I can't get my hands on the high-res files for every image that they used in this. Do you have it there?
What I have pulled up is actually the Esri GIS page, which is an interactive map.
Fantastic. And are all these layers in there with the trails?
It is.
Okay, great.
They're a little bit harder to see. They're like brown lines, but it is a pretty handy thing. I can send you guys the link and everything afterwards too to take a look just as we continue. It'll be an ongoing discussion, and it's kind of a lofty project to kind of look at working out. So mostly today, I was hoping we could at least kind of talk strategy and maybe deciding how we want to go ahead and start tackling that, since it is going to be kind of a consistently important project for us to do. Via the master plan, that was a big bit of feedback from the town, was basically connectivity to the river, closed loop trails, things that people can actually go on for extended times. I mean, even on our recreation page, I was looking at this week, I think they have an organized community walk that is taking place like starting in Amazon, and it's in the industrial area. And like, while it's all well and good and there are some nice little areas out there, it would be nice to have a decent trail system that would allow people to do that in town, allow folks from neighborhoods to walk along a trail and get all the way to the Sandy. And that ultimately, I think, is the goal for that project. But so I have some thoughts, but I figure I can open that up. Just kind of looking at what we have here. The existing trail paths are the brown dots. We got the proposed ones, but then the existing multi-use paths are often partnered with some of the parks that we have throughout town. I can say from the town that I lived in before, over in Hillsdale, because there's so much development that already takes place, kind of like we have here, you're a little bit more restricted with what we have. So they did implement some neighborhood streets as trails. They just had signage as if it's a continuation of the trail, walking along a nice street to get to the next part of it, off into the next nature area. So that is something for us to consider. Just because something stops at a neighborhood doesn't mean it has to actually stop per se. And granted, I don't know what the city requirements are for that, but I know it's obviously possible and people walk that anyway. So in terms of it being part of an actual implemented trail, it might be something for us to look at. So.
All excellent points, and I think, you know, it is, you're right, there are parts of this that are very lofty goals and frankly would be very expensive and, you know, maybe are things that are gonna be years down the road. I think I've already discussed, some of you know, some of the trail issues, on the Beaver Creek Canyon trails between Whedon Park and Kiku Park. Certainly, that Beaver Creek Bridge is gonna be, is no pun intended, but the bridge between, you know, like it is the, you know, connection for east and west side of the trail systems. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, there are also though, and just, you know, kind of speaking to what you mentioned about, how some of these areas are isolated islands. There is connectivity on city streets and sidewalks between some of these sites as well. It doesn't have to be continuous trail connecting one to the other. There are some areas that are not such lofty goals and are things that are, you know, attainable goals in the coming year. And one that I have been looking at a lot, that I think would kind of be high on my list of priorities. You all, I'm sure, have noticed right next door here, the construction that's happening on the Home Forward site. That's gonna be a large residential building with a lot of people living in it. And right across 4th Street right there is one of my favorite parks in the city, Helen Althouse Park, which I think is really underutilized. Mm-hmm. It's very unique. There's a grove of pretty old cedar trees in there that you don't see anywhere else in Troutdale. It's a really beautiful wooded area, and some trail improvements in Helen Althouse Park would create, right within walking distance of the Home Forward site, a really beautiful wooded area for those people to access. You know, to walk right out of their apartments and right into the forest right there. So, you know, that's certainly something that we could work on, some trail improvements and rebuilding some of the infrastructure out there, some of the wooden staircases and the footbridges and things like that. I think, you know, at a lower cost than something like completely rebuilding the boardwalk in below Kiku Park. So that's one area that I'm kind of looking at, you know, for the coming year, prioritizing some trail improvements.
Okay. Noted. Does anybody have any thoughts they want to share or anything? If not, I'll keep going.
Thoughts about
Trail systems, just looking at it, yeah, exactly, just tactics, so, like, go ahead.
So my question is, I forgot to bring my readers. Thank you. Oh, I need longer arms. The West Beaver Creek by, across by Glen Otto. What side of Beaver Creek is that on? Is it on the west side or is it on the east side?
That's on the east. Glen Otto is on the east side of Beaver Creek.
Glen Otto is on the east side of Beaver Creek, but the Beaver Creek West Trail, what side of Beaver Creek is that on?
I would assume the west. Is that the same thing? Is that the same as the is that the same as the trail going up from the Harlow House?
No, that's a different Beaver Creek trail. But
Oh, it's,
so, yeah,
it's
so
this
there's-
lower one.
So there's this little brown area here, and then there's the trail that goes up the hill.
Mm-hmm.
But there's and again, I've seen different maps where this one here, the Beaver Creek West Trail, sometimes I see it on the east side, and sometimes I see it on the west side. And I can't tell what side it's on, but you got the little green dot, kind of where the T2 circle is. Mm-hmm. There's a green dot to the southwest of that.
You know, I think
that is on the west side of Beaver Creek. Mm-hmm. And then the purple dots looks like it goes along the east side of this map. I'd really like to get some clarity on that.
I'm gonna go down there and check it out. Is that?
I think I do
I think
too.
this trail runs down off of like Jackson Park down there. Is that right?
No,
It's like-
it starts at the Trail Museum, the Railroad Museum.
Oh, okay.
Well, that's where it ends. I mean, it doesn't go any further from that. And so we're trying to figure out whether it's going to stay on the east side by the pump station, behind those homes. You know, so the homes that are on the east side of Columbia River Highway. Or if it's gonna come across in my backyard.
Based on what we're looking at, this is Zach, on the GIS form, it looks like it's probably a continuation of the trail on the west side, behind the homes.
Behind the
So
Harlow
it's not
house?
on it's not on the other side of the bridge with the RV, resort.
Sandy River, yeah. So, so we're trying to figure out how it gets there then, because we don't know how you get from the train museum, the depot, right? You're gonna have to cross the road somewhere, and then you got maybe 3 properties before you can get to the Harlow House. So the question is it running along Beaver Creek, or does it go up on the other side? Because honestly, there's been some other conversations about how we can tie downtown to Lenato. And if you're gonna run it along the road, then that kind of solves that problem.
I can look into that, Woodrow, I'm sorry, you know, this is the proposed trail that doesn't exist, right? That's basically running by, like, right past the RV park and the pump station right there.
Yeah, it's either on the RV park side, which is east, or it's on the properties on the west side. And I did hear they were having some challenges, trying to acquire property rights or something, or access rights on the west side, which told me it was gonna go on the west side. But the west side has the green patch of the park right there by the art intersection. So. And then, how's that tie in with the 40-mile loop system?
I believe that once it I mean, so, what, you know.
Once you get back on the
however
other
it's
side of
connected,
Harlow.
Yeah, once you get it to the depot and the proposed location of the new bike hub, and then the new Sandy Riverfront trail that's gonna tie into the Chalk Trail, that's when you have the continuous loop connecting to the 40-mile loop trail.
Yeah.
So.
On that direction, but not south.
You got it.
If you wanna admit.
Yes. Oh, and it looks like Frank has something to say here. Sorry, Frank, I just noticed you had your hand raised. Do you still want to say?
Yeah, no worries. Is it okay if I speak? I mean, I don't want to jump in on your meeting, but I just walked down that trail yesterday, so I could save you a trip, Jonah.
Thank you. Sorry.
Yeah, so I had a older lady that moved into Sandy Palisades. She was trying to figure out how to get across to my side because I live up on 17th. And without the bridge, like you said, it's kind of, yeah, there's just no way to get there unless you go 6 minutes drive all the way back around. So that being said, there is no trail that connects to Jackson Road. It is on the actual east side of the creek. There is no trail on the west side because as the creek comes around, it creates that riverbank that's so tight, and you wouldn't be able to put a trail in there. And even if you did, it would probably go away every year. So you don't want to go down that road. The question is property rights, and that bridge, as you come up on Jackson, that is all private property. So that's an issue that's going to have to be part of the master plan. Does that make sense? Okay. So that left turn as you come down the trail takes you right to where the bridge will be in the future. And then that crosses over to Beaver Creek side. And then you can go up that trail. That'll connect to Robbins Way and drop you down to Harlow House. Everyone following me?
No.
Yeah, you came from the south. You went north, right?
So if I start at Sandy Palisades on the west or on the east side, walk down, and then the bridge, assuming the bridge gets done by 2025, I can cross over the bridge, go up to the Beaver Creek side, which connects me to Robbins Way. That trail is done. We're actually using it. I ran it 2 days ago. That drops you down to Harlow House, and from Harlow House, I can either take a left or a right to either the Sandy River or the Visitor Center.
This is Sherry. Frank, if you wouldn't mind. So if you, on this map that I'm looking at, if you move to the right, so it's moved to the east, there's another trail that's not quite parallel, but kind of runs along, and it still comes to the west of Glen Auto Park, and it pops out on what looks like the historic highway, I think.
Yeah, there's currently no trail that goes there. That's hopeful future reference.
Okay, so right now, though, that shows as existing trail path, not proposed in this, what we have.
I think that there's a gap where it says Glen.
Yeah, so there's a gap between Jackson Road and the trail where you turn left to go to the bridge. There is nothing there right now. You run into a house that's located right there. So, yeah. Yeah, and then, I mean, you can show that the Chalk Chalk Trail is complete and, yeah, I mean, this is my running route most days, and once that bridge gets done, I really miss running the Sandy Palisades, so if you guys want to hurry up on that, that would be great.
Thank you, Frank, I really appreciate that, and yeah, I mean, I'd love to get out and walk this myself, you know, so.
Yeah, I'm retired, so if you see me running around the city, that's kind of what I do. I explore everything, so yeah, and parks are like my thing, so yeah, no worries.
All right.
Why are you on this committee then?
Yeah, join the committee. We need you. This is Zach. I think it is a good approach to, again, in the interest of looking at river connectivity, to probably work our way from that side in. If we were to, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of this study, but the Japanese transportation agency at one point I promise I have a point for this, for laying out their subway, did an interesting approach by basically putting sugar down on little points around the city that were kind of key. So think of those as our parks, right? Or the riverfront and major neighborhoods. And they had fungus start growing on it. And it would branch out and go to each of the spots in the most efficient manner possible. And that's how they laid down their subway system to get from place to place. While, I mean, it's potentially feasible for us to do something like that, if we think about that in terms of how we work our connectivity with neighborhoods and parks, we might be able to kind of, maybe more simply, at least even just from a theoretical standpoint, lay down some kind of general skeleton or framework for what we can kind of start at, and then work our way to actually seeing what's feasible given the roadways. I was kind of looking at it earlier, and Jonah, I like your approach of kind of maybe looking at the 20% that'll make 80% of the difference to start with, where it's if we have simple connections that we can start making and claiming as a trail site that would be an actual path, that's something for us to think about using existing roadways and things that are already there. But looking at our kind of city layout, I don't know, I'm pretty sure it's probably in our Parks Master Plan, but where the highest concentration of population is located in terms of the areas. But I imagine it's probably kind of central, given kind of the neighborhoods off to the probably the west side, and then highly concentrated along the east by the river, with the main bulk of it kind of still again just being center. So you have Sunrise Park, Columbia Park, you have high density housing in the Columbia Park area north. You have some new developments that went in by Sunrise Park. You're getting the new apartments going in on 257th right by Helen Outhouse. So connecting these kind of areas first might do us some good with just making sure that kind of the central loop is kind of connected, meaning for example, Sunrise Park, I'm looking at, and again, it would probably also help maybe for us to lay out our boundaries, right? So what areas we're able to work with. If we're looking at Jackson Park Road, for example, as being a potential, or there's the boundary of the town, which looks like it kind of juts in from, what is that, Sandy Dell Road, I think. I don't think that's within our city limits. I think it's technically.
It's outside.
It's outside, perfect. So we don't have certain areas like that to work with. But I think the closer we obviously can be to the river to implement future actual trail systems, obviously the nicer it's gonna be for residents and people to actually utilize some more natural areas. Beaver Creek included, obviously when it comes to the expansion of trails along that would be ideal as well. But Again, kind of focusing in on that, I guess, just kind of keep that in mind. Maybe we can focus on some of these easy jumps. I kind of started drawing some lines earlier, just as kind of a framework too. So I know this is probably some of your first times looking at this and whatnot as well, but no stupid questions. I mean, this is all definitely just kind of an open work session for us to go on. Woodrow.
Yeah, there's Woodrow. So, and Frank helps out here, because I've never been over by, the Llewellyn Greenway. It doesn't look like there's any existing trails all throughout that.
Yeah, that is very steep terrain.
It
On
looks a little
on the
steep.
Sandy Riverside, there isn't really, it's not really feasible to install a trail there. It's like
Okay.
that, yeah, so.
Yeah.
So it's a green belt because we can't do anything with it.
Exactly.
Got it.
Yeah, Kiku Park, Jonah, do you have any input on Kiku Park?
Sorry, what's that?
Kiku Park is really similar. We used to have stairs that went down. I've been here since '91, so we used to have stairs that went down from Kiku Park to connect to Beaver Creek. Gosh, those have been gone like 10 years. There's really no connection there. Yeah, it's just wicked steep, and I think the investment doesn't really. I don't know. It's up to you guys.
I would love to see a connection from Kiku Park right there. It is very steep in there, and I think even, if we were to make the investment in rebuilding a wooden staircase similar to what we installed in the last year below Whedon Park, we would have to take erosion into consideration there, and I think that the shelf life of a staircase in there would be significantly shortened by the amount of water coming down the hillside. So, but it is something that I'm open to looking at and figuring out solutions for in the future, because I would love to see connectivity between Kiku and Whedon.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Make me a
And cross country teams would thank you for it. Those stair workouts would be great.
I'm gonna make you a co-host. Will that allow
Sure,
you to do it?
it probably will.
Did that give you permission?
Let me see, spotlight. Probably, nope. Let me just see if I can, yep, here we go, share screen, okay, window, tab. Okay, everybody see that?
Yeah.
Thank you, Zach.
Yeah, for sure. Alright, so this is the GIS. This is kind of the area we were just talking about, so you can kind of see how the terrain is extra steep along the riverfront, creek right here, Sandy River on this side. So this is the area we were just talking about with the Llewellyn Greenway. Kind of runs along the backside of these houses as well, which I mean would be great to put something along the top, but like you mentioned, erosion study, something like that would probably need to be done in order to see actually how feasible something like that is. That said, I mean, if we're looking at I mean, if Jackson Park Road, for example, since it does cut up and it is largely kind of surrounded by nature up to this whole area that we already have parks, like Glen Auto, whatnot, I mean, connecting Llewellyn through that area or something like that, again, might be something to look at. Along that same vein, erosion study, it's steep terrain, but again, if it's something that's gonna be a nice nature walk and interconnected trail, then it is something that we wanna at least continue having a conversation about. This is the Kiku Park area right here that we were just talking about. You can kind of see how steep it is there, and then the area that was kind of going down that's since degraded over time. And then again, special thanks to Jonah and the crew for getting some of these ways down over here, kind of put back in shape, so there's still viable access down into the creek. Let's see.
Hey,
Yeah.
would you mind, would you just, how do I say, slide the other way?
Slide the other way.
Like bring it,
Slide to the left, cha-cha.
how about you bring it
She wants to see
down?
south.
Bring Whedon down more.
Bring Whedon down more. There's Whedon
Yeah.
right
You
here.
wanna zoom
Okay.
in on me?
Now zoom in that area.
Alright, zooming in.
Okay, so I'm just seeing, for lack of a better thing, I'm gonna get up and point at it, maybe I won't. Okay, this is what comes out of
Beaver Creek.
Yeah,
Okay,
that comes down from the SP4 trailhead off of Evans, right there.
Okay, off Evans, okay, and then normally we would find a bridge to cross somewhere, oh, we would have crossed it here. But what is this?
That goes off, so this one looks like it's, was it private property?
It is, and I think it dead ends before that private property, so I don't think that that is actually passable through that tract right there.
Okay, because I was gonna say there's somewhere where you go just to a bench and then you.
And I think that, that's
Okay.
that trail just kind of
Okay.
terminates right there at the border of the private parcel.
Okay, and then if you crossed over and then, Beaver Creek, and then you go down a ways, that's where it doesn't, I meant the other way, down, I meant up. I'm sorry. In my mind, I know where you're walking, it goes
Alright.
down, but, okay, and does it really connect somewhere, or is that what Frank said, doesn't connect?
It doesn't seem to actually technically connect, so this is an unevaluated, it looks like potential Beaver Creek Trail that goes back up to the Columbia River Highway, part of Jackson Park, and then it kind of comes around and cuts down back into the creek over this way.
Yeah, that's a weird little brown line. I mean, you
Right.
can't travel that straight line because.
Yeah,
Of course.
Okay.
it could be that there is some kind of trail or road through private property there, but I've never walked it, and, you know.
No, it's a fake line.
For all practical
Big
purposes,
line.
it doesn't exist, yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, it's, so I mean, like, again, so we're looking in between our parks, right? I mean, we're looking at all this neighborhood here. There are oftentimes, as we've seen over by, Kiku Park and some of these surrounding houses, and like right here, for example, on the two entry points to the creek from, Beaver Creek Lane. There are little pathways of access points that go right next to houses sometimes, so it kind of depends on the land usage and what's viable there to kind of connect these in an urban setting. But, you know, that's gonna, short of that, we're gonna have to kind of look to connect via the normal street routes and what's gonna be most efficient or the nicest trek along those routes. So I mean, for example, connecting Kiku with Sunrise, so it's technically a continuing loop that goes from all these neighborhoods here over to the river.
You know, Zach, what's actually
Yeah.
maybe easier than that is connecting Whedon to Sunrise through the Stewart Ridge Greenway Trail, which is that little, it's just right to right there. That's Stewart Ridge Greenway right there, or Kings Byway Greenway.
Okay,
They're synonymous.
so right here, this little,
Exactly.
I
So
see,
walking, you know, so if you were to walk
and then down.
Kings Byway,
Nice.
it connects to Sunrise.
Yeah, there you go. That's great. I didn't even know about that little secret path. Yeah.
Question, so now, are we talking about the 40-mile loop still with the 8-foot wide asphalt? I mean, this is what we're talking about?
No, these are just a bunch of other surface trails. No, the 40 mile loop trail is down in the Sandy waterfront, that's the Chalk Trail. And so, I mean, theoretically, that will be tied into a loop, a rideable loop.
But
At some point.
8 feet wide, made of asphalt.
Yeah, but that's not, I mean, I feel like that I think that kind of like terminates at what's gonna be the Depot Park Bike Hub.
Right now, and that's
Right now,
what we're
yeah.
talking about, is trying to,
Yeah.
where do we want that to go?
Okay, I'm sorry, Miss Sherry, you mean you're trying to push it because there's a great deal of the community of Troutdale that does not want a 40-mile loop.
Yeah, I'm just trying to
They want
figure out
nothing to do with
trying to figure out
making it
where.
a continuum.
where it could go. Is there, you know?
There is a proposal from Metro for it.
257, is
From
it
Metro to
Troutdale
Troutdale,
Road?
it doesn't.
Yeah, it's like ridiculous places,
Yeah.
but sometimes you can look at some other places.
This is Carol. Troutdale did not want to be part of the 40-mile loop because of the issues that they were having at Springwater Trail with the homelessness and the safety issues there. We did not want to bring it to our city. And when we had a lot of those meetings, we've had them in different areas. Shelley, if you remember, I mean, we had community, people coming in from the community. They did not want to be part of the 40-mile loop.
And that's,
They called it something else.
to Chalk is 40 mile, right? We're talking about the same thing.
It is, they're synonymous, yeah, I mean, the Chalk Trail, the Chalk is just the name of the
That
Troutdale
section.
managed
So,
section of
so,
the trail.
so yeah, so that's gonna terminate about 150 yards from my back door.
Okay.
So I really wanna know where it's going. I really have a concern about the next steps.
Yeah,
Cause you're not gonna just put some gates up and say it ends here, right?
Yeah.
You're not gonna do that, they're just gonna let it.
Well, you're in the right place, Woodrow, so that's, you know,
Lovely.
good you're here. I can, if it would be helpful, I can bring the Metro proposal for the someday closed loop 40-mile layout that
Oh, yeah, I
they
saw
have.
it, and I
Yeah.
saw where, years ago, it was, like in the 80s, it was 257.
Mhm.
And then after that, they moved it to Troutdale Road. And we just had a meeting with Dallas, and he says looks like they're trying to get it back on 257. So,
Yeah, it's nuts.
yeah, nuts. It's not a clinical term.
No, it's.
Well, just in, as we talk about, where the needs are, where the most urban density is and stuff, Zach, I did just wanna point you to, figure 3 in the Parks Master Plan on page number 26. Has the maps of residential density, low-income population.
Thank you.
So,
Great. So that might be a good overlay for us to also consider as far as what's gonna make the biggest impact in the shortest time.
Yeah.
Good, thank you. I'll have to double check that too. I like the Kings Byway plan. I mean, like that's a potential for us to continue exploring. As
This
far
is
as
Robbie, now that I wasn't gonna bring it up, now that you brought it back up, I am so fairly certain that there are no trespassing signs up in that Kings Byway part. It's the one that you access at the end of that little cul-de-sac
Yeah.
around the corner from I am so certain, somebody please fact check me.
when was the
but-
last time you learned out there?
Oh gosh, my wife and I ride our bikes by it all the time because I'm scared to
So-
go in it
So I have
because
it
there's
up.
trespassing.
Where are you
signs.
seeing the no trespassing?
So, okay, so if you go like right where your mouse is,
Cul-de-sac?
in between those two houses,
At the
like, one
top,
of-
right there?
Yeah, like
Okay.
one of the like
That's
literally
the
where your
access
mouse
point to it?
Yeah, there
right
is an
there.
access
There's a
point.
little trail, and I've always thought
that-
that it's somebody's
not-
backyard.
That is not a sanctioned no trespassing
gotta
sign.
go back there.
Yeah,
You
so
gotta
if
go
there
check
is
it
one,
out.
I'll go look at that tomorrow.
I don't know if I'm misremembering, but I've gone in there and like I accidentally went in there and thought I was in trouble because I saw no trespassing signs, because then it spits out on the side of that street area. Yeah, so.
Yeah, no, and at the bottom, there's a small detention basin that's like full of cattail reeds and stuff, and actually there's a neighbor there that really doesn't like that pond. But that's one of the only places I've seen red-winged blackbirds in the city. They love that pond with the reeds and stuff in there, so it is actually habitat for at least one endangered species, so.
I'm gonna fact check myself too.
Yeah, well, you may not be wrong, no, I mean, and people do weird stuff, so it could be that some neighbor put a no trespassing sign out there, so I'll go out and
To
look.
discourage the high school students.
Yeah, or camping, or, yeah.
Another quick one is if you just scroll down, like just like right below Sunrise Park, if you go out
There's
the
no trailer,
backside,
right?
down that path right there, down that hill.
Yeah.
We could pilot like the street thing that you're talking about to go, have you ever gone into that?
Yeah, I have.
Greenway, that's really awesome down there.
It is, it's really nice.
Yeah. And then another staircase there going down into Beaver Creek Canyon there, on what's called like the Bellingham Greenway.
That's what I was talking about.
Yeah, and that is an area that I would love to see the trails improved in. There's a really beautiful section of the creek
Yeah.
down there,
Yeah.
with like a lot of big stones and kind of
The
meanders in
other,
the creek.
the other thing that I'm really curious about, I don't know if there's any, because I know that this is probably within the public works realm, is the sidewalk gap that's right there on Stark that goes, there's the sidewalk that goes
Yep.
from Mount Hood on the, like if you're looking up Stark, towards Gresham on the left side, the sidewalk dies out like right before you get to the bridge, and you have to cut onto the road
Oh, yeah,
to where the trail ends, right there.
okay.
But like even just the sidewalk being completed, that would connect it into College Nature, which you could then go into the neighborhood over there, but that sidewalk gap has always been really dangerous, trying to go onto the road.
It is, and unfortunately, I don't even think that that's a Troutdale Public Works thing. I think that that's on Mold Code streets. Yeah,
And
so.
even more annoying.
So I mean, that's something that I wish that we could do something about, actually. I think that that's maybe the county's territory, but,
So, okay, nice. So because this right here isn't necessarily a valid, wait, we were looking at this one, but is this,
Which one were you talking?
this is the farmland right here, right?
yeah, that's Fuji Farm right there in the
Okay.
corner.
Interesting. Okay, so this is not also viable.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Okay, so because that's not viable,
I'll mention that to our GIS guy and see if
Sure.
maybe we can get some of that cleaned up.
cool, that'd be great. But we're talking about this one, utilizing part of the street potentially, going through Bellingham Greenway, using part of this street, coming all the way up to Sunrise, potentially cutting up through here if we develop a trail coming up this way, through the Kings Byway, coming through 17th all the way through Kiko down to the creek.
Yeah.
That's a pretty substantial, like, decent closed trail that utilizes a lot of what we have. So that's a good thing to keep in mind.
Well, even from Kiku, if you just scroll up, you can just walk along the street to the path that goes behind the houses. Down to Harlow House. That's like a.
Right here. And this is currently in.
That is in use,
Yeah.
that's the Strawberry Meadows
That's
Trail.
a good one.
Perfect.
That's a
Okay.
great one.
So that would give you access to that whole little area. If it was done all kind of together. Nice.
It goes all the way to the Beaver Creek steps, so you could literally just go from Kiku to the
Mhm.
Beaver Creek steps, and then you just turn left instead.
So just a question about, like, you know, when we started to identify these pathways and stuff, like, is what you'd like to see, like, layers in GIS that says, hey, do you wanna take an extended walk? Do you wanna, you know, are you training for a marathon? Do you wanna go, you know, go out and run this thing, you know? And so would you like me to talk to Austin, the GIS manager, and just say, hey, we want a layer that kind of shows how you do this, so that people can see that? Is that kind of the end goal?
I mean, that sounds great.
Yeah.
That sounds like, I mean, a layer for the trail system that would be like a longer connected loop, I think is what
Yeah.
people are looking for, because
Yeah.
as long as it handles, I think, I mean, maybe there's some marathon runners out there, I myself am not, but, I think the main thing that I think people wanted out of this was a longer connected trail system and then better access to the river. So whatever accomplishes that, if that shows us that we can go all the way from Stark and those apartments down there, and connect all of these neighborhoods on a single trail that we would be able to improve on and upkeep and add signage to and make known, that we have a decent way for everybody there to continue using that, utilizing the greenways that are already present, utilizing the Beaver Creek Trail, and then bringing it out on the waterfront, which is going to continue to develop. And obviously, if you're coming out at Harlow House, and then we're gonna have this entire waterfront park, I mean, that's essentially a way for people to increase walkability in our city to get to the confluence site, which is getting developed too. And so, I mean, that's a huge win.
Yeah.
Yeah. Woodrow.
Alright, again, going back to my days down with Gilbert, we actually started to see a high number of people being trespassed out of greenbelt properties. And so we started doing a little bit of research, like, why? Why are, little old Gilbert? And it was people from the Audubon Society. And apparently they had found birding venues that were in greenbelts and were places they shouldn't be going to. But people were flying in from all across the country to get their pictures of the sandpipers migrating from San Diego through Arizona back into New Mexico or whatever. Is there anything like that we have data on about people coming in, aside from the homeless, right? We're looking for, trespassing someone and they're looking at nature, they're looking at fungus or moss. Is there something that
I
we should
have
be
not
aware
heard of anybody any birders getting trespassed. No,
I've definitely done that before.
Yeah.
In the Glen Auto Park, where you walk in the back and then there's like no clear distinction that, oh, you're actually going on somebody's property, and I did get somebody come out and go, oh my gosh, you're on my backyard.
So when you say people getting trespassed from Greenway, do you mean people trespassing on private property?
They cross through private property into a percolation field.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Water treatments, down in Arizona, we do water treatment a little bit differently.
Yeah.
All right, so we got huge fields and we just let the water percolate down into the groundwater.
Right.
yeah, well, migratory waterfowl love those things. And they started seeing, an uptick in people cutting through private residences and setting up their big huge zoom cameras, trying to get the sandpipers.
I haven't heard of that happening down here. No, I did get an inquiry about somebody wanting to know where they could go look at some Canadian geese, and I said, actually, down on the Troutdale Trail. Yeah, I think they were from out of town, and I said, actually, down at the wastewater plant. They're down at the wastewater plant every day, so.
Right, so, and right now, they changed the way they did the wastewater treatment plants to allow public access. And it's $1 million revenue now. So people fly in and they stay in the hotels nearby to get pictures of the waterfowl going through the wastewater treatment stuff.
Guess we better start constructing better habitats.
Yeah, exactly, yeah, so.
They got money, man.
Yeah. Well, environmental services, there's, economic services involved in environmental services too, so there are lots of benefits to preserving natural spaces for.
So when we talk about paths like this, then we definitely want to be able to, identify where those scenic places are, right? And do we want to be able to, more than just a path? Do we want to put a bench? Do we want to put a wide spot? Do we want to put a drinking fountain where we think people might want to stop and rest? And we don't. You're right, I'm just saying,
No, yeah, that's definitely a
Tents.
good. This is Zach,
or the opposite, make sure they can't put tents up, right? Make it so that you can't sleep on the side of the trails that we're building.
Yeah. That's a good point, and that's like a natural kind of course progression, right? Like once we have the framework up and once we actually have some like the deliverables, then we can kind of beautify it,
Right.
improve on it, make
Well,
it
because
better.
you mentioned the red-winged blackbirds, they're all over Beaver Creek certain times here.
Oh, really? Okay, I haven't seen them yet, never mind then.
And we have some brown ones too, so they're pretty cool.
So yeah, action item, Jonah, I think that's a great call. If we can get a layer, maybe like a working layer under construction that we can kind of look to use as a resource like this on a regular basis and just kind of touch on and add to and adjust and edit and just kind of run by you guys. That way we can look to get some of these going. That'd be fantastic.
Yeah, sounds good, that's in my notes, so I'll talk to Austin about getting that going.
Sounds good. Anybody? Yes, Carol.
I am not in my 30s, I'm older than that, I cannot read this, even with my glasses, I cannot read it.
It's tiny.
So
Do you wanna borrow Jim's?
when we're doing maps, can you please make sure they're bigger so some of us can actually see what we're talking about?
Absolutely.
Instead of make-believing that we can see, 'cause I cannot.
I'd like to take it one better and do focused maps. If we're looking at a specific area, really make the map about just that
Oh, sure.
one connect. So
Like a
we're
work
looking at
session on one
connecting
area.
this one area, let's make it about that. I also think that if we're going to make connections like this, that it's gonna be really important to put them in the Champion, put up the signs, even do the silly little platform maps that say from here to here. And if it's along a sidewalk that lines a street, make sure that that sidewalk is identified as part of that trail, just to make sure that people have a progression, it's mile marker 2, right?
Yeah.
That kind of thing, so that start here and end here.
You're absolutely right. That's gonna be key for sure, and I think, that was Shelley and this is Zach. I think, again, doing like a community walk, like grand opening kind of event to do the whole trail where we can run something like that, bring attention to it, let people know that we have a good interconnected system, like that we're working towards as a community, and involve people, make them a part of it. And label it, make sure everyone's aware that their street is now part of that trail, like that kind of, whatever we need to do, whatever steps we need to take, I'm sure we'll get there, but conceptually, that makes sense to kind of have focused maps. I'd be happy to continue doing this, especially if, it looks like it's updated, stuff's labeled chalk, it's obviously in the works.
Oh, he works on it all the time,
Yeah.
yeah, so I mean, I think that maybe some of this stuff is just things that need to be revisited, you
Perfect,
know?
yeah. But if we have a layer to work out of it.
And probably a lot of this stuff was like, he probably pulled a lot of those trails from aerial imagery. I doubt that he's gone out and walked every single one of these to confirm that it's actually a thing.
Sure.
You know, so I'm sure that feedback from us, on that would be something that he would appreciate, so.
Cool, great.
Yeah.
Cool. Anything else from anybody? At this point, we'll keep the conversation going on another session. Moving on to discussion and review of the landmark and historic trees in Troutdale.
Yes, so it sounds like this is kind of a continued discussion from the Historic Landmarks Committee, right? Is that correct? Yeah, so, and I guess, you know, I did ask Nick Ramstead, who facilitates that committee, just for some background info on this, and to pull some records. And so he did provide the inventory of historic resources, which I'm sure that both you, Carol, and Jim have seen before in the other committee. So I mean, but for the rest of everybody, we do have a few designated historic trees in Troutdale. The one that probably everybody is most familiar with, that is the only one that I have seen around that actually has the plaque on it, is the Alfred Baker Copper Beech tree at College Nature Park. And so, yeah, so that's circa 1891. It's a very old tree. And so there's a few other, there's a couple of Oregon white oaks in town that are on private residence. I'm not seeing any other trees total, and I'd be happy to pass this list out if anybody wants to take a look at it. But I'm not seeing any other trees that have actually gone through the entire process of being designated and had a plaque added to them. And so, you know, if that's something that this committee wants to discuss, then certainly we can discuss it. However, in my review of the process of the designation of a historic tree, it sounds like this is maybe more in the purview of the Historic Landmarks Commission and City Council. And so, and actually, there's a couple of slightly contradictory things on the books. I mean, so essentially, what does he say here? So the TDC, which is the Troutdale Development Code, does not explicitly state that trees are included. It's more about property. So essentially, the municipal code, TMC 1310-130, historic and significant trees, is technically the correct procedure for designating a historic tree. And that does say the director shall, as soon as possible, after the passage of the ordinance codified in this chapter and from time to time thereafter, prepare or cause a prepared list of trees within the city, which, just to summarize, should be designated as having a historic association. The director in this is referring to the director of community development, I believe. It does say in the municipal code that this needs to be brought before city council for final approval. So I think that the process for designating a historic tree needs to first be discussed in the HLC and then taken to city council for approval by HLC. So I'm just curious, Jim, since you suggested this agenda item, was there a specific point that you wanted the Parks Committee to focus on related to historic trees?
I know, you're gonna have to tell me, do you recall? This is Jim, sorry, and Jim's admitting a lack of knowledge. I don't recall.
I don't recall, I just know that we said, this is Carol, I know that we talked about the older trees that we needed to talk to Parks Committee on, but I don't remember the details as to which trees we were talking about.
Were they on this list?
Yeah, it may have been about awareness of them, and then also, are there others that should be considered, or should that group have, should we be out looking for them, or are they already known? That, I think, Carol, we maybe have to go there and come back with a more definitive question.
So Zach, this is Carol. Here's my suggestion, because it's 9 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
My brain's fried. I mean, I'm just tired. I've been up since 5. I would love to give you more explanation, right, Jim?
Yes.
On really why we were gonna bring it back, why we
Sure.
were bringing it to the parks. So if Jim and I can get together
Yeah.
and then bring it back to the next parks
Yeah,
meeting,
makes
then
sense.
we can give you a better explanation.
And this may be something too that we want to invite the Troutdale Historic Society to come and talk to us about if we bring this up in
I
another
think they're
meeting.
here.
Oh, wait, I
I
mean,
think they're here.
well, that's the Landmark Commission is separate from the Historic Society, right? Or are they the same thing?
I think they're here.
Okay, sorry if I just exposed my own ignorance, but.
You got the museum, and then you got these guys.
You got
Okay.
that, yes,
Okay,
Yeah, we can table that to next time, for sure.
okay.
thank you.
Cool, no problem, we'll circle back on that next time around, so moving on to the committee concerns, initiatives, future agenda items, closing comments. So we will go ahead and add that to the next one, if you guys wanted to bring that up at the next meeting for your comments, and then Jim, if you have anything else, we'll start over with you.
I don't, thank you.
Yep. Woodrow, we're good, thank you. All right, Shelley?
Jonah, thank you for all you do,
Thank you.
always.
Thanks.
Except you replaced that light in the park. We had plans to put a scarecrow under there.
I'm sorry it took so long. I bet that was driving you all crazy at night. I'm
No,
sorry about that.
it wasn't. We were planning to put a scarecrow under there at Halloween in the flickering light, right? It would have been great. But thank you for everything you do. Great meeting. It's good to see everybody. I think we had nobody absent tonight. That's amazing.
Yeah.
It's all yours.
Cool. Victoria?
No, thank you.
Yeah, for sure. Tiffany? Robbie? Nothing. Sherry?
Nothing.
Carol?
Great meeting. I'm glad that we were able to like talk things through with Tammy here and you were able to explain and that was a good conversation. Tense a little bit, but it was a good conversation. I thought it needed to be done. And so I appreciate your honesty and I appreciate knowing some things that are really stressful for you. It helps me understand it a little bit better, because I know you guys are stressed, and I see your truck out there every morning that I go to work. There's always a worker back there doing something, so, I mean, I know you guys are working hard, so I appreciate that.
Thank you, yeah, and I hope it wasn't too tense with Tanny. I mean, I mean it when I say I want, I welcome him to yeah, and anybody in any city committee, like, please come get to know parks, like we're, I want people to know the people that work in the division, not just me. You all see me and I get to talk to you a lot, but we've got a lot of really wonderful, dedicated people out there working really hard. And so, thank you for saying that, and I will follow up with Tanny and make sure that we're good after this, so.
Well, and I didn't realize how much time you really spend here. And I don't think any of us know how much you spend here. And I think that's really important for us to know, because we want you out in the parks, we want you out and about. We don't want you taking care of this building, and it shouldn't be your responsibility. And I personally gonna bring that up to the city council, the next city council meeting, because I don't think it's fair to our parks committee.
This building
And
is
so-
probably about 20 to 30% of the total amount of work.
That's a lot.
For facilities, not for parks, but for facilities.
Just out of curiosity, how did it become under Parks purview?
Well, it's parks and facilities, it's on the facility side, so, and I discuss facilities issues because it's something that I do a lot in my work, even though this is not the facilities,
Gotcha.
committee, but I just, it's relevant to my work and to the staff, there is crossover between the two, and so, I do take an opportunity to discuss that sometimes. But if that's not, that isn't what the name of the committee is, so if that is a tangent, then we can leave that alone, at times, so.
But it's good to know, and I appreciate it being brought up, and we all do appreciate you, I appreciate you, so, thank you.
Thank you, I appreciate you all too, thank you.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, thank you again. I'm glad we cleared some things up. Great discussion tonight. On that note too, if you ever wanted to invite any of your park staff to just come at the beginning, even just to say hi, do a quick meet and greet sort of thing, like I'm sure we'd all love to give them all a pat on the back, and maybe we can even get a little snack together or something as a thank you, and just kinda hang out and meet everybody, put a face to the name sort of thing, and might be something worth looking into over the holidays or something like that, so.
That's a great idea. I will extend an invitation just for like the beginning of the meeting if anyone wants to do that. And I just wanna, as far as agenda items, there was a few that were brought up over the course of the discussion tonight, so I just kinda wanna confirm that what I have in my notes for next month. So for an agenda item, I marked that we'd like to get an update from Scott Waddell on Beaver Creek. The budget, discussions of capital outlay budget priorities for parks in the coming year, which is gonna be kind of a rolling agenda item for over the next few months. And I am going to, this is an action item and agenda item, I'm gonna talk to Kevin about the dog park page on Facebook, a QR code on flyers at the dog park, so I will come back with some information on that in next month. So those are the three that I got. Am I missing anything that anybody said?
The HLC,
Oh, right,
you're gonna come back.
the very last one, right?
Yeah.
And for the budget, if you would just bring a handout that shows what's currently in the budget
Okay,
and what's allocated.
yes. And I mean, I'll also be discussing there's gonna be some things in there that aren't happening this year, some sales, like,
Yep,
and so,
I think we need
can
to
talk
see all
about
of it,
what's,
though.
what's gonna carry over, what we were able to accomplish, what we weren't able to accomplish, so.
I gotta just get it in my mind right. We said before that, but we have the freedom, or you have the freedom to use that 40,000 on sun sales for something else.
No, I don't think so, that's in capital outlay, I don't believe that is really how it works, so I mean, so yeah, the capital outlay budget allocations are for the specific thing that they are aimed at. What I can do is, if I don't get that done in a year, I can carry that over for the next year exactly the same, or with an increase if there was a cost increase or justifiable increase. What I cannot do, in my operating budget, the total amount for my operating budget is the total amount that I cannot exceed. On any one line item in the operations budget, I could go way over, as long as I don't go over the final number.
Okay.
It's different in capital outlay. Each allocation in capital outlay, that is the limit for that thing on each line.
Okay.
So,
And I think we're only interested in the capital outlay, right?
Yes, correct, yeah. And then an update on the layer for this GIS.
yep, oh yeah, that's right.
Awesome. Cool, hold or cancel next month's meeting. We're gonna keep going with it, that way we can touch base, right? Everyone in agreement? No? Okay. All right, with that, we'll take a motion to adjourn.
This is Carol, I make a motion that we adjourn.
This is Tiffany, I second that motion.
Awesome, all in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Awesome, we are adjourned, thank you guys. Yes.
This is in that map, this is the park master plan.
Yes.
You never eat.
I know,
And when
and
I
I
said-
literally remembered it about 2 hours before I
46, that's what I had, and I could not find it.